Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about who makes the best and the worst pickup truck for the 2022 model year, now that I have finally been able to review everything that was released. Now, before we get into this video, I do want to mention this will be a several-part series, so in today's video, we're talking about half-ton trucks. I will have another video talking about heavy-duty trucks, and then we'll talk about mid-sized trucks, and then we'll talk about SUVs with truck beds that are being called trucks. we got to give them some love, and then also electric trucks as well. So, with that being said, also, if you want to save time money the next time purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. So let's first talk about the different contenders for the best and the worst pickup truck of the 2022 model year. So we have the Nissan Titan, we have the GMC Sierra 1500, the Chevy Silverado 1500, the Toyota Tundra, the Ford F-150, and then the Ram 1500. Now, I know that there are technically other trucks that are now in the half-ton truck segment that are fully electric, but we're going to have a dedicated video to those because I feel like they're different enough from these trucks because they're fully electric that, yeah, we're not going to include them in this video. But anyways, those are the contenders. So the first truck out of the bunch is the Nissan Titan. Now, this is definitely the most old school out of the bunch. It uses a naturally aspirated 5.6 liter V8 that's paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission. And although it has pretty cool modern styling on the outside, the interior definitely has a more old school feel, right? It uses a column shifter, and you've got like lots of plastics and everything throughout the interior that just take you back to like the mid 2000s, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing for truck buyers, because truck buyers want durability and longevity, which is what the Titan provides. It has been shown to be a very reliable truck over the long haul, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Nissan has such a strong warranty on the Titan. It has the best warranty out of all of the trucks for a gas-engined truck, which is just super awesome. So I guess that from an upside perspective, super reliable. I think it looks great on the outside. You've got a bunch of different packages to choose from with the Titan. You can get in base model format. You can get it fully loaded in the Platinum Reserve package. You can get an off-road package called the Pro 4X. And another benefit of the Titan is most everything is standard equipment with the truck. There's a few options you can add to different packages, but they pretty much make everything standard, which is a big benefit. Now, with some cons, some people might not like the old schoolness of the Titan because it does feel like you are purchasing an old new vehicle, if that makes sense. A similar vehicle to this is like the new Toyota 4Runner, right? Because again, it's super old school, but it is a new vehicle, and so kind of in that same realm. And then from a pricing perspective, it's actually relatively affordable. Even the fully loaded high-end versions of the Nissan Titan are still pretty affordable. They're in like the $60,000 range, which is a lot of money, but compared to some of the other trucks that we're going to be talking about, it's not that bad whatsoever. Now, the next truck in the bunch is the new Toyota Tundra, which was pretty controversial when it was released because Toyota switched from a big naturally aspirated V8 to a twin-turbo V6. Now, there's two different powertrains. There's a hybrid, and then there's just the regular twin-turbo V6. The hybrid uses the V6, but then it also adds the hybrid component to it. And both those powertrains are actually really solid from a power perspective. The twin-turbo V6 all by itself produces just under 400 horsepower and almost 500 pound-feet of torque. And then once you add that hybrid component, it's like 437 horsepower and then almost 600 pound-feet of torque. And fuel economy with the new Tundra is actually pretty decent. The one thing that I will say, though, is it gets pretty similar fuel economy to like the Nissan Titan that has a big naturally aspirated V8, and so it's kind of interesting how that works with pickup trucks. When you put small turbocharged engines in them, it sometimes makes them more efficient, but sometimes it doesn't. Now, upsides with the new Tundra, there's a bunch of different packages to choose from with the new Tundra, and they frankly have really good affordable packages like the TRD Sport, for example, and then they still have the TRD Off-Road package, so I think it's a big plus. Exterior styling, it's kind of all over the place because some people love it, some people hate it. I personally think it looks really good, especially with the TRD Sport or with the TRD Pro. Just, yeah, really cool looking truck. And then for those of you that want a luxury truck, they have the Capstone. Now, some potential downsides here with the new Tundra is there have been some quirks that Toyota's been working out with the truck upon release, but most of it hasn't been because of how the truck was engineered. It's mostly been because of some of the components that Toyota's gotten from manufacturers that they use to produce the truck. And so, yeah, obviously Toyota chose to use those manufacturers, but the truck seems to be engineered really well, and so as long as they get the right parts for the truck, it seems like it's going to be really good over the long haul. And then just like most of Toyota's products, it does kind of have that more old school, almost like outdated feel, even though it's all new. Like, it feels new for a Toyota, but compared to some other vehicles in the segment, it doesn't feel like the most modern. And then with the super high-end packages like the Capstone Edition, it's, again, luxurious for a Tundra, but it doesn't necessarily feel super luxurious when you compare it to some other vehicles within the segment. Now, the next two trucks that we're going to put in the same category because they're made by the same automaker is the GMC Sierra 1500 and the Chevy Silverado 1500. Both of these trucks got a pretty decent refresh for the 2022 model year, which significantly improved the trucks from an interior perspective, which is where Chevy and GMC were lacking in the segment. Now, we'll go over the interior in just a moment, but from an exterior styling perspective, I do think that the changes make both the trucks look slightly better compared to their previous versions. Some people were not all about it when they first saw it, but it's one of those things where the design slowly grows on you over time. And with the Chevy truck, the really cool looking packages are like the Trail Boss and the new Silverado ZR2. And then with the GMC trucks, the really cool looking packages are the AT4X, of course, the AT4, and then also the Denali Ultimate is a really cool looking truck. Now, the thing that's great about both of these trucks is you can get them as base as you want, or you can get them as loaded as you want. There's pretty much a truck for everyone, and there's also pretty much a powertrain for everyone. You have a 2.7 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder on the low end side of things, and then you have a 5.3 liter V8, which has a little bit more horsepower, but a little bit less torque than that 2.7 liter 4-cylinder. And then you have the 6.2 V8, which is just a monster with tons of torque, tons of horsepower. And then you have a 3 liter Duramax diesel inline 6 that has a bunch of torque, not a lot of horsepower, but it's a diesel engine, and it's actually going to be improved for the 2023 model year. And so, like I said, you pretty much have a powertrain for everyone, which is fantastic. Now, with the new interiors on both of the trucks, it's just, again, a huge night and day difference with the higher end packages. And I need to emphasize higher end packages, because if you get a base model Chevy Silverado, it still pretty much has the old interior that everyone complained about. And so you don't really get a lot of the benefits of the new Silverado until you jump up to the higher end packages. Now, with the GMC Sierras, I have reviewed a few of the lower end packages on the Sierra, and it seems like even the lower end packages have some of the nice updates, like the big touchscreen and digital gauge cluster. And so it seems like you get a little bit more with the GMC Sierra truck than you get with the Chevy Silverado, which is pretty much par for the course with both of these trucks historically. And so from a pro perspective, I think both of them look great. Interior is a lot better than it used to be, and like I said, there's a lot of options for buyers. Now, from a con perspective, some of those powertrains have been having some reliability issues. A lot of it has been fixed, but there still are some quirks with some of those powertrains that definitely needs to be fixed if these trucks are going to be reliable over the long term. And then from an interior perspective, although this interior change definitely lifted things up, the interiors still aren't quite as nice as some of the other vehicles in the segment, unless you go up to the Denali Ultimate package, which I feel like is just as nice as the nicest trucks from other automakers. But the problem is getting a Denali Ultimate is next to impossible. And so, yeah, it's kind of one of those catch-22s. The next truck is the Ram 1500. Now, this truck was redesigned for the 2019 model year, so this is actually technically the oldest truck that we're talking about, because the Titan was done in 2020, the Toyota was done in 2022, Chevy and GMC 2022, and Ford in 2021. But that doesn't mean that the Ram 1500 is the most outdated feeling truck out of the bunch, because it still feels amazingly modern, still has really cool exterior styling, and just like Chevy and GMC, there's pretty much a truck for everyone. There's base model trucks, there's off-road packages like the Ram Rebel and Ram TRX, and there's luxury packages like the Laramie, the Limited, and the Longhorn. So there really is a truck for everyone. From a powertrain perspective, there isn't necessarily a powertrain for everyone. So you've got a naturally aspirated V6 right now, and then you can also get a naturally aspirated 5.7 liter Hemi V8. Now, the TRX does have its own powertrain, the supercharged 6.2 liter V8, but that's kind of, again, almost in its own category. And so for the regular Ram 1500, there really isn't a powertrain for everyone. I also forgot to mention, you got the EcoDiesel as well. What Ram is going to be releasing in the near future is a new inline 6. It's a turbocharged engine that will pretty much put Ram equal with Ford and with GM from having, a bunch of different powertrains to choose from. And so until that gets released, this does kind of dock Ram a little bit. Interior, with the new Ram 1500 is still absolutely fantastic, and frankly it's still segment leading, especially with their high-end packages like the Limited. It has the most leather and the most real wood trim still in a pickup truck like years later. It's crazy that Ford and GM haven't stepped things up to compete with Ram from an interior perspective, because a lot of people switched over to Ram just based on how the interior looks, and the rest of the tech is super modern. You've got blind spot monitoring with the truck, you've got adaptive cruise control, you've got trailer backup, like any bit of modern technology you could want, you have in the truck. And so really the only downside I see with the Ram 1500 currently is the fact that there aren't more powertrain options, but that is going to change in the near future. The last truck to talk about is the new Ford F-150, which was redesigned for the 2021 model year, and this redesign helped out the F-150 a massive amount. Although it didn't look a huge amount different compared to the previous version of the F-150, it is a big difference. Ride quality is a lot better, the interior is a lot better, and frankly I feel like the truck's just a much better truck overall. Now, there's a package for everyone with the F-150, just like with Ram and just like with GM. So if you want a base model truck, you can get a base model truck. If you want a middle of the line truck, you can get that. If you want off-road package, you've got like the Tremor and the Raptor. And yeah, the F-150 just has quite a bit going for it. And then from a powertrain perspective, there's a powertrain for pretty much everyone. Ford no longer has a diesel powertrain in their half-ton, which is a little bit sad, but they do have the Power Boost, which is very economical. They have the regular EcoBoost, which has great power and gets decent fuel economy. They have a 5.0 V8 if you want a V8. They have a 2.7 liter V6 as well. And so they just have so many different powertrains. So if you want a less powerful powertrain, they've got you. If you want a more expensive, more powerful powertrain, they also have you. And truck's super capable. From an exterior styling perspective, I feel like the F-150 doesn't necessarily look great, but I think that it looks good. And there are certain packages that definitely look better than others. Like the Raptor obviously is just a super good looking truck, and so is the Tremor. But like when you just look at like an XLT or a Lariat, they've got some pizzazz, but just not as much as what you would hope for, basically. But the biggest thing with the new F-150 is the fact that there's just so many different options to choose from. The real downside with the F-150, frankly, is availability right now, and then also pricing on some of the packages has gotten pretty expensive, but most of the trucks have also gotten pretty expensive in today's market. And then the other thing I just briefly talked about is the styling with the truck. I think that they could do a little bit more to kind of just, I don't know, make the truck just stand out just a bit more. Now let's go over the winners and losers for the 2022 model year. Now I know that was a brief overview with all the trucks, but I didn't want this video to be like a bajillion hours long, and there's a lot of stuff that I didn't cover, like towing capacity, payload, all that kind of stuff. But I do want to say that I have taken everything into account with my ranking. So again, towing capacity, payload, what does the truck look like from an interior perspective and from an exterior perspective? What options does the truck offer from an interior and exterior perspective? How many different powertrains does the truck offer? What's the pricing like? And what's the availability like? Because I think that's very important in today's market. So starting at the bottom, we have the Nissan Titan and the Toyota Tundra. And the reason that these two trucks are at the bottom of the ranking, and it also supported by sales figures, because Nissan only sells about 20-ish thousand Titans per year, and then Toyota sells about 100,000 Tundras per year, is the fact that although these trucks provide reliability and longevity, that's not what a lot of truck buyers are looking for anymore, because truck buyers have become like regular car buyers where they trade in their truck every few years. It's not like it used to be, right? And a lot of people go into buying a truck and thinking they're going to keep it for several decades, but then reality hits and then a new truck gets released and then they end up buying a new truck after just a few years. And so the longevity and reliability that these trucks provide, appeals to a certain demographic, but not the broader truck market. And then on top of that, the broader truck market just wants more features than what these trucks provide, and just a slightly more modern feeling interior. And again, these trucks just don't quite provide that. But again, that does appeal to a particular audience, and that audience will continue to purchase Toyotas and Nissans. Now, the next two automakers is GMC and Chevy. And the reason that GMC and Chevy have not been moved up in the ranking, frankly, is because they made some big changes, but they didn't change quite enough with their interiors, especially within the Chevy lineup, because only about half of Chevy's lineup really got the redesigned interior, which definitely pulls them back quite a bit. And so I'd actually put Chevy behind GMC within the rankings. Then the other thing that pulled both of these trucks back has been availability with different packages. All of the desirable packages with both of these automakers are really difficult to get, and the truck that was supposed to break the luxury truck market, the new Denali Ultimate, is like impossible to get. And so if there was better availability with both these automakers, and if the refresh was throughout the entire lineup, then they actually would have fared a lot better. But because of those two reasons, it definitely brings down GMC and Chevy. Now moving from that, we have Ford and Ram, and they're pretty much always at the top at this point since Ram fully redesigned their truck, which is crazy because before the 2019 model year, Ram definitely would not have been at the top. And here's the deal, is there's pros and cons to both of these automakers. From a pro perspective, with Ram, availability is amazing right now, and pricing is also really good. You can actually get discounts on new Ram 1500s. And so you can pretty much get everything that you want at a good price. Now again, the downside, like I said, is the fact that there's not a lot of powertrains offered yet, but that will change for the 23 model year, but we're talking about the 22 model year, so we do have to dock the Ram for that. Now with the F-150, there's a bunch of different packages available, a bunch of different powertrains available, and so the truck's really solid. Pricing, however, and availability is not necessarily the best in today's market. If you order a new F-150, it takes quite a bit of time for your order to be fulfilled, especially when you compare it to Ram. And on top of that, there are no incentives for Ford F-150s, like zero. And a lot of F-150s are being marked up over MSRP, and so the pricing is quite a bit higher when you compare it to the discounts that are happening on the Ram 1500. And so with all of that being taken into account, the Ford F-150 and the Ram 1500 are neck and neck in terms of the trucks themselves. But once we take into account the pricing and availability, the Ram 1500 slightly edges out because it's just a much more attainable truck, and it's a lot more affordable as well. And so overall, it takes the crown, which is crazy. If Ford had slightly better availability with the new F-150 and the pricing was a little bit better in terms of the actual transaction price, then Ford would have probably won for the 2022 model year. With that being said, that's going to sum up things for today's video. I want you guys to let me know which truck you think is the best for the 2022 model year, and I'm excited to do more videos in this series talking about the other types of trucks. And with that being said, I'll see you.